Today, we're going to talk about these divine masculine energies that have been coming in quite strong, how you can work with those with your internal masculine and also working with the external masculine energies. So it's coming through quite strong around the places where the divine masculine energy is split from itself. One of the main splits that came through quite significantly in the acceptance of the divine masculine or acceptance of the masculine session I recorded yesterday was the big split between the heart energy and the root chakra, the lower chakras, especially specifically a disconnection between love and sex, but also how the energies of the masculine heart has been disconnected from their material physical world in a lot of ways. And this is within the systems of humanity, again, because we all have masculine internal energies. We all have a father and masculine ancestors that brought us into this physical form. But then again, of course, we also have the expression of those energies within our bodies, regardless of how we identify. And this split is not something that we only see individually within our own systems or within our counterpart, if that's why you're here, but obviously a disconnect between the heart and the physical material world that we can see rampant in our world. So, what came through in that session, for those of you who didn't get a chance to connect with that yet, I will put it in the pinned comments. It's a very powerful one that I highly recommend for any of you who are working with the masculine energies, especially like internally or in a counterpart connection, if these messages resonate, of course. So, the point of the session and the energies, I want to bring through the messages so that you can connect with those and work with those in whatever way feels aligned for you. This is a very important topic, and there is absolutely no accidents that we are working on these energies at a time that we're seeing so much transformation, change, and chaos in our world. The work that we're doing is, in essence, a response from the higher power to support the reseeding and the templates of our natural nature. And so, what came forward in the session is as we are working with accepting all of the parts of ourself, all of the internal energies, and we're using those external mirrors as an opportunity to see where we may have those splits or those blocks or those fears, it can be a very powerful tool, as many of you know. So it was coming in again with just opening up to the acceptance of the masculine energies internally, externally, and it unfolded, yes, into those typical providing and protecting energies. But this is where the overlay and the disconnect from the heart came in, because yes, those are natural masculine instincts, but they've also been embedded in society in a way that has programmed the masculine to provide and protect in a way that has been disassociated away from the truth of his heart. And it's not necessarily including what he truly wants or the true potential expression of his capacity to provide and protect. The masculines were given a very small bandwidth. I did just say he, and I want to make it clear right now, if I say he or she, it is not excluding anyone. It just comes through in that way because we are sometimes talking about a male body or a female body, or how we generally understand these energies, but it is in absolutely no disrespect to however anyone identifies. So if it comes out, it's just part of the way the energy is channeling through me. But the masculines have been taught to disconnect or just listen and provide. And they were taught very specific things or ways of how to be a masculine and what that meant and what they are supposed to do. And what I see over and over and over again in many masculines is that they don't even necessarily understand why they're supposed to do it. They just know they're supposed to do it. They do not necessarily have an emotional connection to what they're supposed to do. They're not necessarily taking those actions in providing and protecting or doing certain things because it's actually what they want. In many cases, they think it's what they want because it's what they're supposed to want, but they've never actually had the opportunity to fully make the true decision for themselves. And so some of the splits start to come in. This does not mean that they don't want to do those things, but the massive disconnect came in when they lost the choice for themselves. They never got to explore the experience to decide, is this what I want or is this not what I want? So then sometimes what happens is you also have the extreme rebellion against what they were taught was the right thing. And this starts to create more splits within the system, and they start to feel at tug of war with themselves. And I'm going to speak this because probably regardless of how you identify, you're going to identify with some of what I'm saying because we've grown up on a masculine planet. So we've all been pushed into some levels of these energies through societal expectations. Okay. So this split comes in because there's the actual internal desire, there's the actual soul essence and soul contract that's fueling the human, the masculine. And yet there's this societal overlay of expectations of how that's supposed to be done. And even just saying it to you, I feel incredibly suffocated. Oh my gosh, it's like I can barely breathe. Wow. I have felt that before. Thank goodness I don't feel that way anymore, but I understand it deeply. And I can also, in this moment, feel how incredibly suffocating these energies are and how they are becoming for society and for the masculines to carry. And it's why we're reaching this precipice point of shift. Another very, very important topic that came through on that session was the energies connected to sexuality and the shame and the guilt that is connected not only with the providing and protecting and doing everything in a certain way, but the centuries and the generations of sexual suppression, the Puritan energies, the splits in the system around what actual healthy sexuality looks like. There was a lot of space within that session where we addressed infidelity and how a lot of sexual distortion, addiction, and again, these splits manifested over time in society, in marriages, in the distortions that we're even seeing today really are some of the results of the suppression of the true natural sexual nature of our being, the split between our human primal sexual energies and our higher spiritual sexual energies. And in all reality, all of that and everything in between is a natural part of who we are. But we have been taught to suppress a lot of that. We have been taught that it's dirty. We have been taught to dissociate away from our bodies. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of people that I have spoken to that are so disconnected from their bodies, they don't even know what they feel physically or emotionally. And if you encourage them to connect with their body, they think you're weird. or that you're gross, or why would I want to connect with my body? Like there's like almost this deep distortion around feeling your own body or your own feelings as somehow bad, dirty, or disgusting. And so there's quite a bit around this that's just been passed down or it's frozen deep in the systems. And so, again, like I said, many of us are carrying this in different ways. The Divine Masculine Collective has brought it forth for our attention to focus on, to look at, to dissolve, to thaw, unravel, and allow our true natural sexual natures to come back into alignment. Because as a physical human being living on this planet, we are the physical, we are the spiritual, we are the primal energies. Primal energies in balance are beautiful. They are part of what we are here to experience in physicality. It is not a separation away from physicality. It's about embodying into our physical body, to not feel afraid of our bodies or our desires of our sexuality, but to learn how to harness and work with it as a way of expressing our energy, our love, our connection, our heart, right? As we dissolve the distortion. But a big part of these splits in the system, because it's our natural nature, in its repression, it moves into the shadow. And so then you have systems splitting. And the vision that came in the session was specifically around a male husband married to a female wife. And outward in society, this was the pure, pious relationship that was of God or of spirituality, of the right and the good thing to do. But there was still all this underlying desire that didn't necessarily match that. So there's the splits of feeling like you're bad or dirty, or it's disrespectful to do that with your wife, but it builds and it builds and it builds. And then it creates this split in the system where now that desire, because the masculine is so physical, starts to get expressed outwardly in the direction of a different female or a different feminine or a different expression, whether it's porn, whether it's a mistress, whether it's a side chick. It becomes where the outlet to express that other part has a place to land, but it's split. Two separate worlds, two separate parts, two separate lives, but it's all essentially coming from one being who feels that they have to show this one part out in society, even though they feel all of these other things. And this is the issue that we have with suppressing any parts of ourself. When they're suppressed, when we're not safe to speak about them or address them or learn about them, we then do not know how to wield or work with our energies. They become distorted, they become shadow, they become split, but that is not their natural nature. And so we worked within all of this energy, within all of this system, and this feels exceedingly important for anyone who resonates with this. However, you choose to address this, whether you've experienced infidelity or you've experienced it in your ancestral line in past lives. At the end of the session, it really came in to recalibrate this between the counterparts, the actual physical divine feminine and physical divine masculine, however that resonates, as the internal energies rebalanced and reharmonized. It allowed it to reharmonize in the shared space. For any of you that feel drawn to this work but don't necessarily have a specific person, this can just be to work with those energies within all of your relationships, with your relationship to humanity on the planet. The main core piece of all of it is around resolving and dissolving our shame and guilt for being human, for being primal, for being physical, for being soulful, for being vulnerable, for being strong. Any of the parts of us where we have been shamed for just being is what is requiring attention to be unraveled. And I know it deeply came up within this specific session, but I'm happy to work with any of you around any topic, especially in a one-on-one if you feel guided. Now, I also feel guided to acknowledge that are there actions or behaviors that create feelings of shame and guilt that are appropriate feelings of shame or guilt because they're hurtful or harmful? Absolutely. There is appropriate guilt and shame, but not because there's a need to sit within the guilt and shame. That is a moment where the guilt and shame is available to show you and tell you something doesn't feel right. And what can I do to change that behavior? What can I do to mitigate the shame and the guilt? How can I embody more into the truth of who I am? What created that behavior within me? What was split? Where did I not know myself? Where did I feel guilty about my desires? Where do I not even know what I really want? And I'm just kind of all over the place because I have these feelings and these emotions and these desires, but I never learned how to handle them or work with them. This can be a mirror point to intuitive abilities and how we've been taught to suppress trusting ourselves or trusting our intuition or what we're feeling, to trust everyone else, to hand over our spiritual connection to source to another human being instead of someone teaching us how to develop and strengthen our own connection to source, which is what I provide. Not that I do that for you, but I feel like that's such an important part of our process of embodiment. No one needs to be a go-between between you and source when you're learning to develop your own direct connection. Now, I understand on this path as we're learning that and we're opening it, we work with other people, we learn from other people, absolutely. But ultimately, the goal with everything should be how can I discover this and create this and strengthen this on my own? And who are the people, places, and things that are encouraging me to find my truth and develop my connection in my sovereignty, right? That's the type of things that we're wanting to look for. The people who are going to support us in our natural nature and natural expression, people who are able to provide a safe space for us to explore uncomfortable topics like our sexual energies and or exploring what does it mean to truly be a provider and a protector, not what everyone told me that meant, but what does it actually mean to me, and how do I even go about finding that out? Because again, the masculine system has been taught to disconnect from the heart. The thing is the heart space is the fuel for the manifestation of your desires in the aligned ways. Okay. So this is about reconnecting to the internal truth, the internal heart, reconnecting the systems back to their natural nature, not because in one day you're going to have all of the answers. This is about the intention of wanting to know and learn about your true natural nature, your true sexuality, your true creation potential, your true heart, your true love, what it is that you actually want. And I'm sure there's going to be parts of what you were taught to want are going to be true to what you want, because some of that is just our natural human nature. And there's going to be other parts where you're like, whoa, there's so much more. I'm so much more. And this is what this space is exploring. And as we unravel our fears around our own natural nature, our own expression of sexuality, of our emotions, of our intuition. Pretty much all of the things that we were taught are bad, in a lot of ways, there's something under there that's actually good and important. What has happened is the suppression of the natural nature has created the distortions and the confusion. At least this is what I'm finding. And so I wanted to share that with you. This internal split within us is a mirror of the external split between divine masculine and divine feminine. As we work with healing the internal split within our heart, within our system, within our ancestral lines, within our experiences with others, within our exchanges, as we work with those as the opportunity to heal these rifts within, it begins to heal those rifts in the external world. If you want to bring something into your life in a healed way, then you work with focusing that energy within. Again, this feels important. It does not mean you're bad or dirty or wrong or need to be ashamed. This means this is the opportunity to discover what has been suppressed, hidden, or shamed. And how can you step into your power, your natural nature, and resolve those so that you can actually get to know and love all of who you are, which again provides that space to invite that into your life in an external fashion. All right, my loves. So I'm going to put that acceptance of the masculine session in the pin comments. There's also the reparation of the masculine energies that I did last week. If you're feeling these topics, these are some very powerful energies and times that we are having the opportunity to open to. Like I said, I'm committed to showing up and bringing forth the messages that I'm guided to do, the energies in the way that I'm capable of supporting. And I will continue to do so as we open up on this journey day by day, step by step. I'm so grateful for your presence. I'm grateful for your willingness and your capacity to work deeply within yourself, within your own internal energies. As you take responsibility for yourself, you're taking that opportunity to create this in new solutions out in the world and in the collective energies. So, again, all of that information will be in the pinned comment. You can find it over in the post tab. It's available on my website along with 40 or 50 other sessions with lots of different topics for those of you that enjoy this process, and also over on Patreon. All right, my loves, I may come on with a member video for Patreon and YouTube later today. So stay tuned when I do that today or tomorrow. Again, that will also be posted in the post tab. I would love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions or thoughts around this topic, anything you want to go a bit deeper into, any topics for sessions, like the recorded sessions, let me know, and we'll see if that co-creation wants to come into physical manifestation. All right, my loves, I'm sending you so much love and joy for the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Much love.